the coaching firings of Gerard Mayo and Doug Peterson, and just the tracker around these coaches, in my personal opinion. So let's talk about it. Like is tracking all the latest news, interviews, developments concerning the coaches and the GM vacancies around the league. And as a 2025 hiring cycle, it definitely kicks into gear. It's definitely considered Black Monday in this situation. So information below would definitely tell you everything. So, offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb from the Seattle Seahawks, he was able to end up getting fired today after one season as an offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. The Cincinnati Bengals fired their defensive coordinator, Lou Amaro, if I said that correctly. He had 6 seasons with the Cincinnati Bengals, but we all know that the head coach Doug Pederson got fired today from the Jacksonville Jaguars on the day after the Jacksonville Jaguars season-ending loss to the Indianapolis Colts. They dropped the 4-13 on that campaign, and Peterson leaves Duval as 22-29 record over the 3 seasons at the helm. So I said this in my video on the Sports Wire. Like, we just don't know what's going to be the next head coaching for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Jacksonville just can't keep a coach. They just can't keep a coach no matter who it is. And Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson just didn't work out in that situation. Now, we do have Gerard Mayo. Gerard Mayo was another coach that got fired, probably one of the first head coaches that got fired, and that was yesterday. And I said that on my show on the Sports Wire. If you go check out the Sports Wire YouTube channel, you can see I uploaded a video of that, saying that the Patriots has fired Mayo on January 5th, shortly after the win over the Buffalo Bills in the season finale. Now, Mayo was 4-13 in the record in his first season at the helm. But we all have to say for Gerard Mayo in this situation is that, he drafted Drake May. Did he really, get set up for success? That's the biggest question. Did he really get set up for success for the New England Patriots? And I know Robert Kraft, he said that he really feels bad about firing Gerard Mayo, but at the same time, you have to think about it like you really didn't set him up to be ready to be a head coach, honestly. And I feel like personally with Gerard Mayo is that he's going to be a defensive coordinator somewhere. I don't see him being a head coach nowhere else. That's just another thing that I see here. Same thing for Doug Pederson. I don't see Doug Pederson being a head coach, in my personal opinion. I do see him being an offensive coordinator somewhere in the NFL when it comes to this coach's carousel. And that's just it. Hopefully, the New England Patriots and all these head coaching jobs that's going to come available, hopefully they can find them a job somewhere in the NFL. Now let's go down to the Cleveland Browns, where the Cleveland Browns has fired offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey and offensive line coach Andy Dickerson. Now, Andy Dickerson was another one, and Ken Dorsey was just horrible at the offensive coordinator position, knowing that you had Deshaun Watson and you had Jared Judy, you had all these receivers and all these weapons, and you still couldn't do nothing with this record being 3-14 on the year. So they got blown out by the Ravens, and the Browns was just ready to have that season be over with. The Cleveland Browns were ready to have their season over with at that time. And now Ken Dorsey, he might get another job in the NFL. Who knows? To me, I think he's a Luke Getsy 2.0. I'm a Raiders fan at the end of the day. So yeah, I do see it as, both of him, still finding jobs in this league. Chicago Bears, they fired their head coach mid-season, but they did fire their offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron. Now, Bears fired their head coach on November 29th after Thanksgiving Day loss to the Detroit Lions and featured a notable clock mismanagement in that game in the final seconds. Now, the Bears were 4-8 at the time of the head coach firing, and he finished a 14-32 record in the 2+ season he was with the Chicago Bears. And the Bears fired Waldron on November 12th with 9 games left into his first season with the team. We all knew that New Orleans Saints fired Dennis Allen. We all knew that situation there. They're going to be looking for a head coach. The Saints fired Allen November 4th after the loss to the Panthers. They did drop to New Orleans to 2-7 on the season. Longtime defensive coordinator for them as well. And Allen definitely replaced Sean Payton as the head coach after laddering step away from 2021 season. And 43 games as a head coach, it compiled only an 18-25 record. Just was not getting it done in New Orleans. Now, for the Las Vegas Raiders, this is definitely a very interesting one because we all thought that a lot of people were saying that Antonio Pierce would probably be out the door. But as of right now, as of today, and as of I do this actual show, that Antonio Pierce still is the head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, offensive coordinator Luke Getsy was fired. We all know that. The quarterback coach, Rich Shangrello, was another coach that got fired from the Las Vegas Raiders. And offensive line coach James Craig was another coach that got fired from the Las Vegas Raiders, starting with a 2-7 loss. Now the Jets did fire Robert Slayer and general manager Joe Douglas. Now we all know that Slayer was fired on October 8th with 5 games into the 2024 season. The Jets was 2-3 at the time of Slayer's firing, which they probably still could have found a way to make the playoffs. But they fired Slayer at in 56 games as the head coach. He was 20-36 record in the 4+ seasons. New York fired Douglas on November 19th, and Douglas was in his final year of the contract, and he posted a 30-64 record in the 5+ seasons with the Jets. Now we all know that some coaches that's going to be returning in 2025, like Coach Shane Steichen. That's another one for the Indianapolis Colts. General manager Chris Ballard, like he's going to come back. Trent Baalke, the general manager for the Jacksonville Jaguars, it looks like he's going to be coming back this year. Miami Dolphins is keeping Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer as their head coach and general manager. And same thing for Brian Dable and Joe Schosen. Those two will be coming back to the New York Giants. Now we do have a lot of interviews that's going on as well. A lot of interviews is definitely going on around the league in the NFL. So make sure y'all come on in, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. We're going to talk about a lot of things here, but we're going to get through this coaching carousel that's been going on because today is Black Monday at the end of the day. So the head coach interviews right now that you have for the Chicago Bears, you have Brian Flores, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, Mike Kalafa, Mike McCarthy was just added to the list. Todd Monken, Drew Petzing, Arthur Smith, and Anthony Wheeler. Now, Brian Flores is the DC for the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Glenn is the DC for the Detroit Lions. Ben Johnson is the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Mike Kalafa is the offensive coordinator for the Giants. Mike McCarthy, we all know he's the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Tom Monken is the OC for the Chicago Bears. Drew Petzing was the OC for the Arizona Cardinals. Arthur Smith is the OC for the Steelers, and Anthony Wheeler for the Dolphins defensive coordinator. Ben Johnson got interview requests from the New England Patriots. The New Orleans Saints, they want to do Kellen Moore of the Philadelphia Eagles. David Shaw, the former head coach at the University of Stanford, and now is a current Broncos executive. You got Anthony Weaver, the DC, from there as well, just looking for the interview request for the New Orleans Saints. Now, for the New York Jets, you have a list of them here. You have a list of them: Joe Brady, Brian Flores, Aaron Glenn, Van Joseph, Matt Nagy, Ron Rivera, Rex Ryan, Bobby Slowick, Arthur Smith, and Mike Vrabel. All those guys, which that one was completed from the former Titans head coach, we did get an interview with them. The general manager's request was Mike Borgioni, Trey Brown, Thomas Durtoff, Mike Greenberg, Alex Hallaby, Jim Nagy, Lewis Riddick was another one that got a GM interview, and John Robinson, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a lot of stuff that's going on in the matter of moments here when it comes to this league and when it comes to the NFL. And these coaches are deservedly sort of getting fired. I don't know about the Gerard Mayo situation, but me personally, Kellen Moore looking like he might be getting a head coaching job. Who knows? He's the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to get the attraction away what he did with that offense in Saquon Barkley in that situation there. So me personally, I do like all these coaches that's probably getting opportunities, but the only two that I'm really concerned of that probably won't go anywhere right now is probably Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. That would be my only two that probably won't go anywhere because they have something going right now with the Detroit Lions, and they're not really focused on being interviewed for other teams where they're trying to go into a playoff run at this moment. So most of these coaches that definitely want to get a playoff run right now, they're not really focused on interviewing with other teams at this point. So in my personal opinion, I just see like with the NFL, I think coaches that's in the playoffs should not allow to be interviewed during the playoffs. I think that's a rule that definitely needs to be changed. It needs to be changed because there's no way that I'm focusing on trying to win a Super Bowl and you have teams that's no longer playing football anymore after 18 weeks of trying to make a playoff run or trying to rebuild their franchises. I think you should wait till after the season's over for these teams that's in the playoffs. Then you can start interviewing them.